Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to episode number 1007 of No DQ Video here on NoDQ.com and the YouTube channel. If you have not gotten the chance, make sure you check out episode number 1006. I was having some issues with YouTube this week and I initially posted 1006 on my personal channel at youtube.com/AaronRift, but the new episode has been posted on this channel, youtube.com/AaronRift, NoDQ. Just in general, as a backup, feel free to subscribe to youtube.com/AaronRift and make sure you stick with NoDQ.com for any updates if there's a problem with the YouTube channel. Also, you can follow NoDQ on Twitter and Facebook at NoDQ.com. Now, with that being said, let's get right down to your questions. First one today comes from XXFreak69XX, first time asker. Why the hell is WWE keeping the belt on Brock Lesnar? He's a part-timer that only comes around a few times a year. I will be completely honest with you here, and you're not going to like it, most likely. Most of you out there are not going to like it. Brock Lesnar is the Universal Champion because WWE wants to make Roman Reigns strong. The strongest possible way. WWE wants Roman Reigns to be the top guy. He is the top guy right now. Roman Reigns, he's not a bad guy. He's not a good guy. He is the guy. And when WWE wrote that line for him, that's how the company feels about him. He is what they are going with. He is their next John Cena. Whether you like it or I like it, it is what it is. Roman Reigns is the guy, and the idea is for Brock Lesnar to put over Roman Reigns and firmly establish Reigns as the top guy. That is what WWE's plan is. Will it change? It's possible, but this is something that has been known for several months now. When Lesnar first won the Universal title, the backstage report was that it was going to be Lesnar and Roman Reigns for WrestleMania 34. So, unless Vince at the last minute gets cold feet again, but the fact is, it's happened so many times now where Vince has gotten cold feet and the Reigns push has slowed down. The end result is WWE wants him to be the new Cena, and as far as the company is concerned, he is the closest thing to the next Cena, and they're just going to run with it. So that is why Lesnar continues to be booked dominant and continues to be the Universal Champion, even though he's a part-timer right now. Got this one here from ASG. So Braun Strowman can walk off an ambulance crash after an intense match, but he goes down to 1 F5. What the hell? No consistency. I agree with you. That was one of the big problems I had with that match at No Mercy. It just felt so flat. As I talked about when I did the review video, watching it in the building, the fans wanted to see destruction. They wanted to see a demolition derby. The fans wanted more out of that match. The crowd started chanting, "We want tables," right before, literally seconds before Lesnar hit the F5 and won. It's not like Strowman needed to kick out of multiple F5s, but I think you needed to do more to elevate Strowman in that match in a losing effort. I think Strowman needed to get up from something big. Maybe have Lesnar spear Strowman through the barricade or throw Strowman off the stage by the announce table. Something really dramatic that Strowman would have gotten up from, and that would have been the big story, and then Lesnar could have won with the F5, but when it's over, you remember Strowman getting up from something really drastic. They really did not do a very good job of protecting Strowman, and I think that really sucks. I mean, the original plan was for Strowman to put over Lesnar at Great Balls of Fire, but Strowman got really hot in the last couple months, and I even said recently that maybe WWE should call an audible and have Strowman win the title and just give him a shot. Give him a chance to see what he can do and just have Lesnar win back the title. But WWE, when they have something set in mind, especially Vince, they're going to go with it and not change plans just because of how the fans are reacting. I think it would have been an organic change because the crowd was really getting into Strowman, I think more than perhaps Vince expected, and you need to make new stars. Wasn't a fan of how that match was booked at all. If Strowman was going to lose, they definitely needed to do more. Not necessarily have him kick out of multiple F5s, but they just needed to have more destruction and carnage in that match. Got this one here from Dylan. What is the most underwhelming yet most hyped match of all time? It's funny the timing that you sent this question coming off of Lesnar and Strowman. That definitely has to be, in my opinion, the most disappointing WWE match of 2017. A match that had a lot of hype but really failed to deliver. And there have been quite a few matches over the years. I was pretty disappointed with Sting and Seth Rollins, but you know, it is what it is. Sting wasn't exactly able to keep up with Seth Rollins at his age, and then he got hurt during that match. But looking back over the years, as far as matches that were really overhyped, I would say Rock versus Cena 2. The rematch to the once-in-a-lifetime. I was never a fan of that, and that was a match that they had been building up for a long period of time. They spent several months building that up, and we all knew the end result. We all knew Cena was going to get his win back, and I thought the match itself was pretty boring. I definitely thought the first one was better, and in typical fashion, sequels tend to not live up to the reputation of the original match. Same thing with Hogan and Rock. That second match they had was not nearly as memorable as the first one. And that's the problem with those sequels. Sometimes they just cannot live up to the original. Same thing with Kurt Angle and Shawn Michaels, too, for that matter. Their rematch after WrestleMania. It was really good, you know, Kurt Angle, Shawn Michaels, but it wasn't at the level of that WrestleMania match. So those, you know, sometimes the sequel has so much hype and so many expectations, it just cannot realistically live up to the hype. Now, some people out there will say, well, Kenny Omega and Okada, their rematch was just as good as the first one, and you could argue that, and same thing with Shawn Michaels and Undertaker, WrestleMania 26. But it doesn't happen all that often. I think more times than not, the sequels are disappointing. This one comes from @DJ Hill, another first-time asker today. Right on. Do you think the racist Jinder Mahal promo increases chances WWE will have him drop the title to Nakamura at Hell in a Cell? No, I don't think so. There really hasn't been a lot of backlash. I mean, there have been internet fans that have complained and have been upset about the storyline, but I think it's more because of how dumb the storyline is, and like I said, why did it take 2 weeks for Nakamura to come out and beat up these guys that were making fun of him? He should have done it the first week. I think my biggest problem with that whole thing was that Nakamura didn't come out and didn't really do anything until that third time. Just made his character look weak, in my opinion. The racist stuff, yeah, I mean, it is what it is, but I think that people need to just back off a little bit because it's wrestling. I mean, I get the perspective where Jinder Mahal is a heel trying to get heat, and his character is supposed to be a hypocrite. You know, he's saying that people are putting him down because of his culture and his background, yet he goes ahead and does the same thing to other people. So I get that. I get that idea that Mahal is supposed to be a hypocrite. I'm just not a fan of the storyline in general, and I just think it made Nakamura look bad. It was WWE's writing, and I don't think Mahal's losing the title, but I could be wrong. Perhaps Nakamura will win it temporarily and then lose it back. I mean, here's the thing. WWE has several India shows coming up in December, and even though it's Raw branded, Mahal is expected to be at that show and pushed heavily on that show. So I'm guessing he will be the WWE champion, or he will be challenging for the WWE title at those shows. I'm not sure about Nakamura winning the title, and I don't think that these promos are going to really change anything. You never know, though. But my gut feeling is Mahal will somehow retain the title. I'm guessing it'll be the usual shenanigans with the Singh brothers, and it's just going to be the same cycle until you know who, a certain guy that needs to get his record 17 titles before he retires, comes back and defeats that heel foreigner once and for all. This one comes from Cruz. And speaking of a certain someone in this thumbnail, actually that's not John Cena, that is, what's his name from Southpaw Regional Wrestling. If it all ended right now, is John Cena the greatest WWE superstar ever? No, I would not say so. I'm sure WWE would say so right now because John Cena is the current guy. So of course they're going to say, oh, John Cena is the greatest of all time. But as far as box office draw, no. As far as best on the mic, no. As far as work ethic, maybe. I mean, John Cena, you could argue he works harder than anybody in WWE history. The schedule that he's been able to maintain. And part of that is also just the fact that he's a freak of nature and his body held up for the most part. And he's probably mentally strong. So it's a combination of several things. John Cena is definitely one of the greatest of all time. When you put it all together, all the attributes, he's right up there at the top. But I would not say he's the greatest of all time. Now, maybe somebody out there who's 15, 20 years old and John Cena's all they know, they might say Cena's the best. But for me, somebody who's been watching for many years and studying the history of wrestling, Cena's probably not top 5, but he might be top 10. You know, if you put all the attributes together and you look at all the different aspects of what Cena does, yeah, you might be able to argue top 10. This one comes from Michael. Will John Cena return at the Survivor Series or Royal Rumble? Who is he going to feud with, or which role might be? I think he will be back for Survivor Series. Last I checked, he was advertised for Survivor Series, and I don't think this movie is going to take more than a couple of weeks of shooting. So I think he will be back for Survivor Series. If not for Survivor Series, definitely by the Rumble. Cena's not retiring, first of all. He will be back. And who he's going to feud with, like I said a few minutes ago, I'm thinking it's going to be John Cena waving the American flag, coming back to SmackDown to shut up this evil heel foreigner who's trash-talking America, and that's going to be the storyline heading into WrestleMania. I'd like to see something else. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Cena versus Mahal and Reigns versus Lesnar as the 2 WrestleMania main event matches. I think it's pretty boring personally, but that seems to be the direction that they're going in right now, with Cena winning his 17th title. You know what's going to happen before he retires. I mean, I would be shocked if Cena doesn't win that 17th world title and breaks Ric Flair's record. I think it's going to happen almost certainly. This one comes from Turbonius. With Enzo's tainted win, is the Cruiserweight division finally dead and buried? It's pretty bad. I thought it was in rough shape before Enzo's win, but now 205 Live is about Enzo. And when you take away Enzo, the division means absolutely nothing. Enzo went out there on Raw and pretty much destroyed all the 205 guys on the mic. And they're all clumped together as basically one act, and an act that doesn't really have much credibility at this point. Even Neville, it feels like he's getting mixed in with the other cruiserweights. He is like the leader of the group in a way, but beyond that, all of them are made out to be weak. And Enzo is the real star, and even though he's a heel, and of course he's going to say that, I think the fans believe him when he says he's the only real star in the group. I think the fans are agreeing, and that's not a good thing. The fans should be saying, hey, these cruiserweights are really big deals, but I don't think that's the case realistically. And when I was there at No Mercy, the crowd did not care about that match. Now, granted, it was given the death spot between the 2 big matches, but still, the fans did not care about the Cruiserweight title. No interest, and the match was boring. I'm guessing we're going to see more boring matches. Enzo can talk, and that's going to keep his status in WWE for the time being. That will keep him in the dance. But once the bell rings, yeah, it's pretty boring. This one comes from Josh. In your last video, you mentioned how things changed from Vince Sr. to Jr. when Vince Jr. became the owner. What do you think will change when Triple H, Shane, and Stephanie take over? That is really hard to say. I don't know to what degree things will change. My guess is they will change somewhat, but Triple H and Stephanie have been trained by Vince. They have been studying what Vince has done over the years, and Triple H is a smart guy. NXT is Triple H's project. He knows what to do to make the hardcore fan base happy. He knows how to hit the right notes when it comes to NXT and get those fans invested. But at the same time, he's doing that because he knows NXT is a hardcore audience. It doesn't represent the majority of casual mainstream wrestling fans. When it comes to Raw, SmackDown, the main pay-per-views, Triple H will act more like Vince. He will do what he thinks is best for the business in terms of drawing in the casual viewers. So I think there will be a little bit of change, but my gut feeling is even when Vince is gone, it's going to be more the same. I think Stephanie will more or less do the same things her father did. As the saying goes, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and I think that's the case with Stephanie. Triple H might change things up a bit. Maybe it'll be a little bit better. I mean, I think the one positive is that Triple H will likely be a bit more in touch with pop culture than Vince, and that might help. That might help the product a little bit. Triple H might make wrestling cool again to some degree. I'm hoping that's the case. I'm hoping Triple H really knows what he's doing and will be able to hit the right notes and make wrestling something you're not embarrassed to say you're a fan of. This one comes from Brian. Were there ever any plans to bring in a third Brother of Destruction? There were rumors in 1998 there was. Perhaps they still could or should. This is the first time I've ever heard this. I never heard WWE ever considering a third brother in the Undertaker and Kane storyline. I only remember Undertaker and Kane having their feud and then Undertaker doing the Ministry of Darkness, but I don't believe there was ever any plan to introduce a third relative in that family, or even like a sister or anything like that. I never heard anything personally, and at this point, there's no reason to do that. I mean, it's definitely way too late to even consider going down that road because Undertaker is pretty much retired, and the same can be said for Kane. So it's too late. If they wanted to do it, maybe they should have done it like in 2010 when Undertaker was feuding with Kane again, and maybe that could have freshened up that feud a little bit. If they were going to do it, that would have been the time. But don't think they're ever going to do it, and I don't recall them ever even considering it. Got this one here from M. Compton. What injury do you think spoiled a storyline from the Attitude Era through now? And which do you feel helped a superstar? And this is yet another first-time asker. So we got some first-time askers today on No DQ videos. So that is awesome. Thank you guys for sending in your questions. As far as injuries that spoiled storylines, I'm trying to think back through the Attitude Era. I think Kevin Nash tearing his quad pretty much killed the NWO. The NWO was already in bad shape, but I know there was this idea of doing Triple H versus Kevin Nash, and Shawn Michaels was going to be involved, and it would have at least kept the NWO alive. Once Nash got injured, that pretty much shut down the entire NWO for good, and one of the all-time great factions in wrestling just had a very sad demise because of Kevin Nash's injury. I don't know if things would have been much better, but still, it was a pretty abrupt an unfortunate way for the NWO to go away after there was so much hype. And, you know, earlier I was talking about things that didn't live up to the hype, and certainly in terms of storylines, the NWO did not live up to the hype. Now, as far as an injury that helped somebody, when Austin went down with the injury at Survivor Series, around Survivor Series in '99, and had to have surgery, The Rock really stepped out of the shadow. I mean, he was already becoming a major star, but once Austin was gone, The Rock was able to take that top spot and completely run with it and become wrestling's biggest star and get the movie roles and ultimately move on to Hollywood and become one of the biggest movie stars in the world. So if there was anybody in wrestling that really benefited from an injury, it was The Rock when Steve Austin left in the end of '99. This one comes from Dave. With Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins involved with Braun Strowman, could they have him and a returning Joe team up with The Miz and The Shield? That's interesting. I mean, I like that a lot better than Miztourage versus The Shield. Now, as far as Joe goes, he's hoping to be back in November. I don't think he's going to be back in time for the TLC pay-per-view, but I think that's way more appealing. Maybe that's what's going to happen here. The fact that Braun Strowman fought Ambrose and now he's fighting Rollins, maybe Strowman's going to get involved. There's been some talk that WWE will not do Shield versus Miztourage. I mean, like I said, WWE should have done more to build up Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel if there was going to be a Shield versus Miztourage match. I'm just not a fan of seeing it at this point because the Miztourage really has no credibility. But if you have the Shield versus Strowman, Joe, and Miz, to me that sounds way more appealing, way more interesting. So, you know, maybe they'll do that. I think they should definitely have Strowman involved, and then if not Joe, maybe somebody like Bray Wyatt. That'll wrap it up for this edition of No DQ Video. Thanks as always for watching. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest wrestling news and rumors, and I will see you guys next time.